Shalom, everyone. It is March the 8th. We are talking about Parasha Vayakhel Pekudei, the two last Parshas of the book of Exodus. As I like to say, I'm going to print this t-shirt. These are really great Parshas. This is a really great Parsha. It's interesting because since a lot of the material in these Parshiot are repeated, they're from earlier material in terms of this is what you should take, this is what you should make, and this is what they took, and this is what they made. And so, a lot of consideration is given to, how much of the Torah is caught up with creating the Tabernacle, and basically what it means is, well, if the Torah spends all this parchment detailing it, it must have been very important. I want to hold on to that idea because I want to move, that's an idea that I'll flesh out towards the end. What I want to focus on is the passage at the end of the Parsha, at the end of Pekudei, which is the end of the book of Shemot, which is putting it all together. I have to say, it's one of my favorite portions in the whole Torah. Maybe that speaks to me, but let me give you just a taste of this and try and understand. Since we have the visual medium here, I'm going to do this in a way that I've never taught before, and I'm going to ask you to pay attention now. Just as a symbol here, we're going to do this, okay? Boom. This is a home-built time-lapse. Can you all see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a company in somewhere in the, I don't know, they build log cabins or log homes. Golden Eagle Log and Timber Homes.
You're not here, you're not going to see it. This is not cabbage.
Elliot, how big is a cubit? What's a cubit?
One more minute. We're putting in the kitchen, cabinets, a little bit of wall, a little bit of countertops, caulking, railings. Sliding door.
Okay. I'll have to try that again. Okay. Well,
Boom. Nice, eh? Isn't that gorgeous? Okay, I love that video because that video represents it represents something very essential. I mean, it's the building of a house. I mean, I could watch these all day, and maybe some of us have more fascination over others. Maybe you have all had some kind of renovation, construction, or something done in your house. So you know the feeling of doing something and completion. It can be a very satisfying feeling to finish things. I'm sitting in my dining room and I have, I did a year and a half ago, and it's very satisfying to do that. And I'm sure many of us have had that experience, especially if the house is constructed from the foundation, as we saw there. That was a log and timber house, and I chose that randomly. The first thing that came out, wanted to see a time-lapse construction project to at least give you an overview of the sense of completion. And I watched that, and of course, everybody's working with tools, and it's all very modern and everything, but there is a very primal satisfaction in human beings when they see the work of their hands. Maaseh yadeinu konaneu, maaseh yadeinu konaneu. The work may establish the work of our hands. And so I'm guessing that is part of what's going on. Let me just, we can go crazy about these things, but I just want to give you a couple of other things. This is animation. I'm going to share it. This is a cathedral, a famous cathedral, the Church of Notre Dame. Now that it has been destroyed by fire, so here we're getting to the religious significance of building a house. Look at this is the official time lapse of the site. Notice when they built it, 1160, the construction starts at 1160. Look how long it takes them to build. Keep that in mind. 18 years to build, I don't know what it's called, the choir, that is the circular end of the apse. 18 years to build those walls, okay? And here's the animation of the pillars. And this first part of the building. And the first part of the roof is in place, the vault soon afterwards. All of that which was there was destroyed in the fire. You're going to see a bit of that. This animation was put together after the fire. Provisional wall. They are now 48 years after the beginning. Almost 50 years this is taken now. 1220, it's 70 years. When did it start? 1140, 70 years. Computers are amazing. 75 years now. 100 years already.
wow.
120 years already. And the tower there, the citadel. We're into the 1300s. This is 150 years after the beginning. So this building is going on for 150 years. All right, so it's the first edition of this building till 17, it's lasted 500 years, 600 years. Then in the 1800s, they restored it 700 years later. And now, so what burned in 2019 was the second restoration. Look at the nice animation. Boom. It went up like a tinderbox. And now they're scheduling the reconstruction to 2024. 2024, okay? And here I just want to, this is obviously Christian, but there's important significance here in the following diagram, and that will remind you what this is all about, what a cathedral is all about. And of course, ta-da, the cathedral is all about the cross, okay? Anyone who's ever been in any kind of building, a Christian, religious, a sacred Christian building, cathedral, knows that what you are doing when you walk into the cathedral is you're walking into the cross, basically. And what that is, I mean, the deep symbolism of that to a pious Christian is that you are becoming one with the figure of Jesus, obviously. So that means that the cathedral sanctuary is laden with all sorts of significance and meaning. We cannot underestimate this. I think the fact that we as Jews live in the post-temple era means that we have no relationship to the narrative of a building. We have the relationship, of course, to our own buildings. We have relationships to our own, synagogues, and sure, each synagogue has its own story. Ours, of course, has a very unique story in that we experienced our own fire and restoration. But if you look at, some of the synagogues in Europe, some of them that are still around, some of them in New York City, and all over the world. And one of the great joys that Jews have when they travel all over the world, as every single one of you knows, is what you typically do on your own itinerary when you go to visit another place is you visit a synagogue. You go to a synagogue to see the different synagogues, especially if they are beautiful synagogues. I want to do one more thing here, share screen, or two actually, I'm sorry. We are going to go to this. This is our tabernacle. And it's interesting that this comes out of some Christian sources, okay? But it's also interesting. This is what it looks like. They did a pretty good job here. Out the altar outdoors. Look at the butcher. That's a priest. This is animation. The meat, blood sprinkled on the altar. Not my favorite scene. The washstand. The entrance. This is to the entrance to the thing. It's gold covered wood. Look at the different covers. 1, 2, 3. And the third one, red, is 4. Skin. This is indoors. This is the incense altar. And then on the left is the menorah that's the left, I think. Maybe from the right. And then the table of the showbread with 12 loaves, or matzahs, or maybe not, I don't know. This is the incense altar, gold altar, and the cherubim on the parochet, and the Holy of Holies with its kaporet. And inside, look at that! You have the the tablets and the 2 cherubs that porsim kapai. Okay, and this is from a Christian source, which shouldn't surprise us, primarily because in Christianity, Jesus replaces the tabernacle. That shouldn't be a surprise to us. Let's go one more one more little video, okay? And here, this is going to blow your mind.
We continue our travels in the Israeli Negev
All right, so
desert.
sorry, I'm going to get a
And
commercial
today,
here. I'm
we're
sorry.
visiting the Timna Park. It is exact size given by God Himself to Moses, as it is written in the book of Exodus. The size in the Bible is given in ancient biblical cubit measurement, and most scholars agree that it should be around 75 feet wide and 150 feet long. And now that we're here and I'm seeing the life-size tabernacle, I can't believe my eyes. The tabernacle is not as giant as I always pictured it. It's actually more of the size of an Olympic pool.
I thought it
That's
was
the altar.
because the people were allowed, but one of the workers reminded me how much they have to carry. So that makes sense.
If you think about it, it makes perfect sense. Of course, they needed to take it down, carry it in the desert, and put it back up. It just wouldn't make sense to build something the size of a Herod's second temple and then keep taking it down and putting it back up while in the desert.
I've just never given it proper thought. And I'm so glad that I can see it now. So the next time I read the text in Exodus account, I'm properly able to imagine how it looked like. So the visual always gives that benefit. And I'm so glad I was able
Okay,
to see
so
this.
that's a nice, I mean, we can, it goes on and on like that. And that's a lovely little interpretation. Of course, it's also from a Christian source. And that, again, should surprise us because again, in Christianity, the tabernacle takes on some significance that goes away, and of course, from Judaism, and while I don't want to dwell on that. I dwell on the fact that here we have something related to the idea of construction, something related to the putting together, the portability of it, all of those things, and what probably was quite beautiful, quite, in the animation, it was very beautiful. But I want to hold on to those feelings, and now we're going to go to the text, and I'll share with you what the text says. Here's the text. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, on the first day of the first month, you shall set up the tabernacle of the tent of meeting. Don't forget, this is the second year. Place there the ark of the pact and screen off the ark with the curtain. Bring in the table and lay out its due setting. Bring in the lampstand and light its lamps. Place the gold altar of incense before the ark of the pact, and put up the screen for the entrance of the tabernacle. You shall place the altar of burnt offering before the entrance of the tabernacle of the tent of meeting. Place the laver between the tent of meeting and the altar, put water in it. Set up the enclosure round about and put in place the screen for the gate of the enclosure. Shall take anointing oil and anoint the tabernacle and all is in it to consecrate it and all its furnishings, so that it will be holy. Then anoint the altar of burnt offering and all its utensils to consecrate the altar, so that the altar shall be most holy. Anoint the laver and its stand to consecrate it. You shall bring Aaron and his sons forward to the entrance of the tent of meeting and wash them with water. Put the sack of vestments on Aaron, anoint him and consecrate him, that he may serve me as priest. Then bring his sons forward, put tunics on them, anoint them as you have anointed their father, as they may serve me as priests. This, their anointing, shall serve them for everlasting priesthood throughout the ages. This Moses did, just as the Lord had commanded him, so he did. Now, pick it up with verse 17. In the first month of the second year, on the first of the month, the tabernacle was set up. Moses set up the tabernacle, placing its sockets, setting up its planks, inserting its bars, and erecting its posts. He spread the tent over the tabernacle, placing the covering of the tent upon it, just as the Lord had commanded Moses. He took the pact and placed it in the ark. He fixed the poles to the ark, placed the cover on top of the ark, and brought the ark inside the tabernacle. Then he put up the curtain for the screening, and screened off the Ark of the Pact, just as the Lord had commanded Moses. He placed the table in the tent of meeting, outside the curtain, on the north side of the tabernacle. Upon it he laid out the setting of bread before the Lord, as the Lord had commanded Moses. He placed the lampstand in the tent of meeting opposite the table on the south side of the tabernacle, and he lit the lamps before the Lord, as the Lord had commanded Moses.
Have a
He placed
colonoscopy.
the altar of gold in the tent of meeting before the curtain. On it he burned aromatic incense as the Lord had commanded Moses.
Until the
Then
day
he put
before.
up the screen for the entrance of the tabernacle. At the entrance of the tabernacle of the tent of meeting, he placed the altar of burnt offering. On it he offered up the burnt offering and the meal offering, as the Lord had commanded Moses. He placed the laver between the tent of meeting and the altar, and put water and put water in it for washing. From it Moses and Aaron, you two placed the table at the tent of meeting. Upon it he laid the setting of the bread. He burned aromatic incense. We'll pick it up from here. Then he put the screen for the entrance. At the entrance of the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, he placed the altar burnt offering. On it he offered up the burnt offering and the meal offering, as the Lord commanded Moses. He placed the laver between the tent of meeting and the altar, and put water in it for washing. From it Moses and Aaron and his sons would wash their hands and feet. They washed when they entered the tent of meeting and when they approached the altar, as the Lord had commanded Moses. And he set up the enclosure around the tabernacle and the altar, and put up the screen for the gate of enclosure. When Moses had finished the work, the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the presence of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Moses could not enter the tent of meeting because the cloud had settled upon it, and the presence of the Lord filled the tabernacle. When the cloud lifted from the tabernacle, the Israelites would set out on their various journeys. But if the cloud did not lift, they would not set out until such time as it did lift. For over the tabernacle, a cloud of the Lord rested by day, and a fire would appear in it by night. In the view of all the house of Israel throughout their journeys, chazak, chazak, v'ni chazak. That's the end of the whole book of Exodus. Now, I'm sorry that the English sounds repetitive, because I want to say that the Hebrew, it's not completely poetic, but it is poetic enough for me. And I have some questions here. I'll show you in a second. Now I'm going to show you in the Hebrew text with color codes only. I'm going to read it in the Hebrew. You got the gist from the English translation, but you see how the Hebrew is going to be very stylized, very repetitive, and follow a certain pattern. Focus on the key elements of the text, its repeated phrases, some of the sevens. What are the message? What's the most important moment in the construction? And what sense is the text trying to convey in terms of narrative of completion? Here we go. So look at my color codes. I'm going to do the first one, okay? So the word Mishkan is going to appear in this text, I think about 10 times. 10 is very significant, okay? And now the first is putting up the whole structure, okay? And this is the Adanav, Krashav, Richav, Amudav. Adanav, these are the connectors, the fasteners, the boards, the latches, and its pillars, okay? Notice that there are 7 elements in this first, in this phase. Vayakhel, 7 verbs. Vayakem, Vayiten, Vayasem, Vayiten, Vayakem, Vayifrosh, Vayasem. Okay? He puts it up, he gives something, he puts it on, he gives, he puts it up, he spreads something out, he put 7 things, and then the coda. Kasher Tziva Adonai et Moshe, as the Lord God commanded Moses. So this is the Mishkan. This is, and we haven't put any of the furniture in. This is referring to the outside, what you saw in the woman walking around with the wind blowing. Okay, that's the outside. Now we have this. I'm going to make it larger. What's going on here? I'm going to read it in Hebrew and translate. Vayikach, he takes. Vayiten et ha'edut el ha'aron. He places the testimony into the box, into the chest, into the ark. Vayasem et abadim al ha'aron. He places the posts on the chest, the carrying posts. Vayiten et ha'kaporet al ha'aron mimala. He puts the kaporet, which is the lid, on top of it. Vayaveh et ha'aron el ha'mishkan. He brings the aron into the mishkan. Vayasem et parochet hamasach. He covers it with the parochet. Vayasem et parochet. He puts the parochet, the curtain. Vayasech al aron ha'idut, and he covers it over the ark. Okay, Kasher Tzivanu Moshe. Second time we see that phrase. What happened here? There were 7 steps, and what did he do here? All of these actions were pertaining to the ark. He takes the blocks, he takes the stones, he puts them in the box, he puts the staves on the box, he puts the lid on the box, he brings the box into the structure. He covers it with a curtain. He covers the box with a covering, as God does. 7 things, okay? So now, back to this. We have 7 things that do the outside structure and 7 things that do the most important thing in the whole structure is this box. This box is the covenant. It contains the covenant, okay? I put these words here, Vayasech, because it's going to be important later on. So pay attention. This 3 letters, Yud Samech Chaf, which means to spread. Vayasech al aron. Okay? Next, this is the table of the showbread. Vayiten et hashulchan mo'ed et mishkan tzafona. It goes on the north. Vayiroch alav erech lechem lifnei Adonai. He places the bread on it, but I'm only counting this one verb relating to the table, because this is an explanation. So Vayiten, he places the table as God commanded. Vayasem et menorah. Now we have the lampstand, the menorah. That's where you lift up your candles, but I'm only counting the placing of the menorah as God commanded. Vayasem et mizbach, the golden altar, which you saw, which is the incense altar. That's where you place your incense. Kasher Tziva Adonai, at Moshe. We're up to now the 4th thing. The Masach Apetach LaMishkan. That is the curtain for the whole sanctuary. And the altar, that gets only one verb, okay? Veta Mizbach Ola Sam. And as God commanded Moses, the kior, which is the washstand, as God commanded, the outer court, Echatzer Saviv, and the Masach Shara Chatzer, the final curtain. We have 7 stages that I've counted here, and then Vayakhel Moshe et ha-lacha. Vayakhel is he completed, and we have, I think, a little play on letters going on here, constant. Vayakhel Moshe et ha-mlacha. Chaf lamed mem, mem lamed chaf. And so what that says to me in a playful way is that we are all coming to conclusion here. It's all being, put together nicely. All the parts are being assembled, and the literature does that in a playful way by giving you this kind of chaf lamed mem, mem lamed chaf. And then what happens? Vayichas he'anan et oel moed. So I said Yud Chaf Samech is to cover, okay? It's the cloud covers the tent of meeting, and the glory of God fills the Mishkan. Moses couldn't go into the tent of meeting because the cloud was on it, and the glory of God, Maleh Mishkan, it was filled. And when the cloud goes up from the top of the Mishkan, the people go to all of their places. And if the cloud does not go up, they won't go until it goes up, because the cloud of God, Ki anan Adonai al Mishkan Yomam, is on the Mishkan every day. Ve'esh tiyalai labo, and fire comes out of it at night. Le'enei kol beit Yisrael, to the eyes of all Israel on all their journeys. So I am making a stretch here that there's a nice little play, anan, 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 4 anans, 4 times repeated cloud. Le'enei, I'll get a B+ for that one. I don't think it's a full total connection, obviously, but it's the there is an attempt here to make some kind of a play. Okay, what's the point of all this? I'm going to go back to, remember that we have Vayichas, and here we have at the beginning Vayasech, Vayichas. And so that is there's a play on words. It's bracketing, basically. What do we have here? We have, I'm sorry that this is going to do this. I'll do this way. Okay. So look at the purple. How many purples do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 purples. What does the number 7 mean? 7 is creation. 7 is creation. And so what's the significance of the tabernacle? The literary significance of the tabernacle is to create a structure that is the mirror of the heavenly structure. It's the mirror of the action, shall I say, is the act of creation. It's imitating God's creation. God creates the world in 7 stages. And here Moses, on the instructions of God, is creating the center of the world in 7 stages. Now, I admit that there is a bit of forcing here. It's trying to shoehorn everything into that pattern. But I think that's very deliberate. There's an attempt to make sure that the understanding of this moment is equivalent to the end of creation, which is Shabbat, which is fullness, which is peace, which is wholeness, which is the glimpse at eternity. Everything that we would want to say about 7 and Shabbat applies to this as well. Okay, that is the structure of the text. I want to. So I've asked here. My questions have been: what are the key elements of the text? It's clear that the first 2, which have 7 stages, are the most important because it's so elaborate. That is the entire structure. And the second is the Aron. Now, I am puzzled by the fact that in this second paragraph, placing the tablets or the testimony into the box, that nobody seems to be interested in that. I find that to be the most fascinating moment of the whole thing, but I can't find any interesting commentaries on it. Maybe I didn't look hard enough, but and in fact, at one point I was thinking I would write something and kind of pass it off as a kind of made up rabbinic, I'd give myself a rabbi's name and invent a midrash on this, because what captivates my imagination in this moment is, he's got the tablets. They've been sitting, I don't know where they've been sitting for all this time. They've been in his tent, whatever. And now putting it in the box and sealing the box, that's about as significant as you're going to get, because nobody's going to ever open this. Who's going to open it, right? The box is sealed forever. It's like the time capsule of Israel. Imagine, if we ever came upon the Ark of the Covenant, the first thing we'd want to do, if it wasn't radioactive and wouldn't destroy us, because you can't touch it, according to the Torah, you touch it, you die. But say you put on a hazmat suit and, took one of these things here, right? I have this here, right? Like a tong, and opened it up with an extended thing, okay? Say you did that. And would you, to look inside it, to find the actual tablets would be amazing. Look, that's what people do when they come across time capsules or mummified remains. That's the great joy, is to open it up and to see what's inside, okay? So it would occur to me that there would be some kind of ceremony, fanfare, exaltation, excitement, emotional piety, a spiritual moment when he places the thing inside. Clearly, those two are the most important events. What does the text emphasize by the way of sevens? That this is like creation, and that the culmination is like Shabbat. What is the message that this text implies? Everything comes together. Like you saw in those videos, I love the video of the construction. At the end, you get a sense of real satisfaction. What's the most important moment in the construction? The ark. What sense is the text trying to convey in terms of the narrative of completion? That's the big question. What does this mean? On the one hand, it means that they're ready to go on their journeys. That's the last word of this, is masehem. I wanted to find a way to connect the word masehem with the first verse. It wasn't successful. Masehem, b'chol masehem, all of their journeys. So it's like the car is loaded up and they're ready to go. That's the sense that the text is giving us. But I want to just go to another idea. There is another passage in the Torah, in the Bible, of exactly this happening, and it is from the book of Kings. And one of my favorite passages, we read it during Sukkot, which is part of the theme of Sukkot, is the connection with this narrative. That is the construction of Solomon's temple. Then Solomon convoked the elders of Israel. Notice, Vayakhel, az Yakhel. So it's a deliberate echo of the words that begin our Parasha, Yakhel. All the heads of the tribes and ancestral chieftains of the Israelites before King Solomon in Jerusalem, to bring up the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord from the city of David, that is Zion. So until Solomon built the temple, the Ark was sitting in a space in the city of David, which I'm not going to show you the pictures of it, but the city of David is just below the Temple Mount. All the men of Israel gathered before King Solomon at the feast in the month of Etanim, that is the 7th month, that is the month of Sukkot. When all the elders of Israel had come, the priest lifted the ark and carried up the ark of the Lord, and the priests and the Levites brought the tent of meeting and the holy vessels that were in the tent. Meanwhile, the King Solomon and the whole community of Israel, who were assembled with him before the ark, were sacrificing sheep and oxen in such abundance that they could not be numbered or counted. In other words, they're bringing up it's a journey of about a half a kilometer, maybe more, a kilometer, okay? They're taking it, and everywhere they go, they're going to burn up another sheep. It's an incredible, thing to imagine. The priest brought the ark of the Lord's covenant to its place underneath the wings of the cherubim in the shrine of the house. They're giant cherubim, okay? Huge things under which this is going to be. For the cherubim had their wings spread out over the place of the ark, so that the cherubim shielded the ark and its poles from above. The poles projected so that the ends of the poles were visible in the sanctuary in front of the shrine, but they could not be seen outside, and there they remain to this day. There was nothing inside the ark but the 2 tablets of stone, which Moses placed there at Horeb, when the Lord made a covenant with the Israelites after their departure from the land of Egypt. When the priests came out of the sanctuary, for the cloud had filled the house of the Lord, and the priests were not able to remain and perform the service because of the cloud, for the presence of the Lord filled the house of the Lord. Then Solomon declared, "The Lord has chosen to abide in a thick cloud. I have now built for you a stately house, a place where you may dwell forever." Oh, it's so fascinating by that passage. It's a great festival. It's a great tumult, an emotion. Solomon is so happy having constructed the temple. It's palpable. You can sense the joy of it. The thing is, and admittedly, this is the moment where it's being consecrated. We're not at that moment yet in Exodus. We're at the moment where everything is together. The moment in Kings is everything is together, and now we're going to get there. And you get the sense that the people are filled with joy. In fact, King Solomon does this on the holiday of Sukkot. I think that it's a genius political moment to do this on the holiday of Sukkot, because the people are already instinctively there, and they're instinctively joyous because it's the time of the harvest. It's a time of Thanksgiving. Solomon, you got to give him credit. He's a political genius as well as his father was. And this institution, the temple, was to establish and solidify the capital, the temple, the covenant all together. The fact that he has the box, he has the ark, and the text says that the tablets are in that box. There are 4 centuries, I think, from the time to 3 centuries, from the time of Moses to the time of Solomon. So that box still has the stones of the tablets of the law inscribed on it. That would be the equivalent of you and I going to the Museum of the Constitution in Washington. What is it called? Where you can actually see the Constitution. The original Constitution is there, okay, under glass. It was in the movie that they tried to steal it. I don't know if you remember, okay, and to see the sacred documents, I call it the sacred documents of the American Constitution. It's the closest that you can come as an American to the experience of seeing the dark. And here we are, we're 2.5 centuries removed from that moment. That is very significant, okay? To see the founding documents is very moving. Some of us have been to the Knesset, where you see the Megillat HaAtzmaut, the actual scroll of independence in the Knesset. It's a very moving thing to see, because the document retains all of the emotion that's conveyed there. So magnify that by I don't know how many factors. That's what's going on here. The people are experiencing in the transition of the ark the experience of Moses in the desert. And that is the significance of the cloud. What did the cloud do when it was present as they completed the sanctuary? It was there to remind them of many things. And what did the cloud do when it filled the temple that Solomon built? It was there to remind them of the first cloud. Okay, now I don't know how they did it. They have a smoke machine going on there. I don't know. No, of course, it's a religious moment. It's God. The cloud of God is coming there. But let me ask you this question now. What is the significance of that cloud, given that we have just experienced, and it's fresh in my mind because we read it last week, we've just experienced the golden calf. We've just experienced the tremendous moment where the first tablets are shattered. We've experienced a moment where Moses has told God to not destroy the people. We've experienced a moment where Moses dispatches the tribe of Levi to go out and to crush the mayhem that is going on with the death of 3,000 people in the camp, which is glossed over, I admit, in a couple of verses, which is very troubling moment, that there is this moment, a spasm of violence, after which there's death and mayhem, and the resulting trauma of the people who lost people, and the trauma, I think, to the people who killed people. And then Moses goes back up the mountain. Moses goes into a cloud and comes down with the second set of tablets. So let me offer some suggestions as to what is going on with this cloud. I admit that there's not one meaning to the cloud, but there could be several, and here they are. What is the significance of the cloud? In the light of the golden calf episode, which is fresh in our minds from last week, how does this episode fit into the larger story? So here are some cloud citations before. Exodus 16, chapter 16, this is before the revelation. Aaron spoke to the whole Israelite community. They turned toward the wilderness, and there in a cloud appeared. So God is already in a cloud before. Exodus 19, this is leading up to Mount Sinai. The Lord said to Moses, I will come to you in a thick cloud. I will come to you in a thick cloud in order that the people may hear when I speak with you, and so trust you ever after. Then Moses reported the people's word to God. So I'm coming to you in a cloud. Then 19 again. On the third day as morning dawned, there was thunder and lightning and a dense cloud upon the mountain. That's Mount Sinai. 24 after Sinai. The presence of the Lord abode on Mount Sinai, and the cloud hid it for 6 days. The seventh day he called out from the cloud. And now Moses went inside the cloud and ascended the mountain. This is after the revelation of the Ten Commandments. Moses goes up, remained on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. So the people see that the mountain is covered in a cloud. So the cloud must suggest God revealing, God speaking, that's the cloud. But then we have the golden calf incident. Moses entered the tent. The pillar of cloud would descend and stand at the entrance of the tent while he spoke with Moses. When all the people saw the pillar of cloud poised at the entrance of the tent, the people would rise and bow low, each at the entrance of the tent. This means that not only does the cloud represent the presence of God, but the cloud represents the presence of God after this great rupture in the relationship. So the cloud is still there. God is still there. Next. 34, the Lord came down in a cloud. He stood with them there and proclaimed the name of the Lord. The Lord passed before him, proclaimed, Adonai, Adonai, Erachum v'chanun, Erech apayim v'rav chesed v'yemet, Notzer chesed la'alafim. God, the Lord, compassionate, gracious, slow to anger, abounding in kindness and faithfulness, forgiving iniquity, extending kindness 1,000 years, forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin. Yet he does not rain all punishment, but visits iniquity of parents upon children, in the third and fourth generation. Moses hastened to bow low to the ground in homage and said, if I have gained your favor, O Lord, pray, let the Lord go in our midst, even though this is a stiff-necked people, pardon our iniquity and our sin and take us for your own. מצאתי חן בעיני השם, ילך להשם בקרבנו, כי עם קשה עורף הוא, וסלחת לעווננו ולחטאתנו ולחטאתנו. Forgive us. So now I'm going to suggest that the cloud, in addition to meaning Mount Sinai, in addition to meaning God's presence, in addition to meaning this is the way God speaks, in addition to meaning the restored relationship, also means forgiveness. The cloud means forgiveness. And the tabernacle becomes not only the place where God will speak to the people, but it's the symbol of God's forgiveness, which is why, parenthesis, Christians take the tabernacle seriously, because it is the symbol that becomes the cathedral, that becomes the cross, that becomes forgiveness. If you take away Christianity for a second, what was the purpose of the tabernacle for the people of Israel? It was the place of the covenant, and it was the place of atonement. Here, creation, joy, fullness, the heavenly abode, the relationship between God and Israel, the place of the covenant, forgiveness and atonement. I can't help but think that that's what the tabernacle has to represent. Now, of course, we have all of this material, all of these passages, these chapters and chapters on it, because, let's face it, this is the most important thing. The most important element in the religious soul is the experience of being connected to God, the experience of joy and fullness and creation, the experience of the covenant, and not the least of which is the experience of forgiveness and atonement. I cannot state this, overemphasize this enough. We have lost that sense because we live in a very secularized age where the notion of transgression and atonement is somewhat cheapened for us. Right? We don't have that sense of the necessity of being forgiven unless we really, really think about it in our intense religious imaginations. You know, I was listening to something the other day about the daily davening. The daily davening includes the tachanun. Every day we ask for atonement. It's you could say, as a worshiper, what am I that sinful? Am I that what instigated the religious imagination to place the experience of forgiveness and atonement at the center of religious life? It's something that is removed from our frame of understanding, unless we understand that this is something that we are in constant need of. And we, specifically as modern Jews, specifically I think also, and I don't want to get into it, as post-Holocaust Jews, have difficulty with this precise concept, because we are carrying with us a burden, a tremendous burden of not guilt, but of sense of, the sense of abandonment, and the sense of, if this is what it's about, then this has been too much. I think that there's a lot there. Nevertheless, in the traditional spiritual orientation of Jewish life, forgiveness, salvation, atonement, joy, these are all the central things. I want to conclude with this little statement here, because we don't, I showed you videos of what it may have looked like. They are interesting, they captivate our imagination to a certain extent, and I think they come close to the sense of, joy and many different kinds of layers of feeling and emotion with regard to the tabernacle. The act of reading, that is reading this text, which I just showed you, becomes our pilgrimage, a rite of passage that imbues our lives with transformation and transcendence. The time we spend in reconstructing the tabernacle is sacred time. The image held in our minds is sacred space. Scripture, so to speak, is a mandala, a diagram chart, a geometric pattern that represents the cosmos metaphysically or symbolically, a time microcosm of the universe but it originally meant to represent wholeness as a model of the organizational structure of life itself, a cosmic diagram that shows the relationship to the infinite and the world that extends beyond and within various minds and bodies. A mandala it comes from it's a word from the Indian religions, but he's saying the scripture, the Bible, the text is infinite. It's like an infinite set of mirrors, right? You know, those of us who go to a barber shop, you sit in front of a mirror and the barber puts the mirror behind you and you can see infinitely. That's scripture. Through its contemplation, the reader can leap from the here and now to the there and then, back to Israel's first constitution as a nation and civilization, and even beyond to the first time when the only mind was God. That's a profound statement. The writer is William Propp. It's in the Anchor Bible Commentary. A very moving statement about what's the purpose of this text. The purpose of this text is to draw you in a set of concentric or geometric infinite mirrors that takes you to the sense of there and then, the first constitution, the first civilization, a first moment, the ground zero, if you will, of Israel's formation as a people, and to the first time. Now, what I would add to that, I'm going to just close it here. What I would add to that is that the ground zero of Israel is complicated. This is what makes it so joyful, because we sinned. We committed a terrible, terrible sin at the moment of our inception. If we didn't commit that sin, if it was perfect, I think religion wouldn't make sense at all. We have to have a reality in a religious life. The reality in the religious life is that a human being is not perfect. A human being has to aspire to perfection. I mean, I keep thinking sometimes in a fantasy way that we should rewrite the Torah and delete all the tough moments, right? So if you deleted the moment, you know, at Sinai, delete the golden calf episode, you have a perfect story. And you delete the moment where Aaron's sons come to when the consecration in a couple of weeks, we'll read that, and they don't do something wrong and they don't die. It's a perfect story. Or if you read the beginning of Genesis, and you heard me say this early on, when God says Lech lecha to Abraham, he's saying, go and I'll make you a great nation. And he goes and he marries a new wife and he has 12 children and he becomes the father of a great nation right at the beginning. He leaves Sarah behind, he leaves Lot behind, and he makes a new family, and that would be perfect. Or you have in the story of when Jacob finally has the 12 sons, they all love each other, they all get along, nobody kills each other, nobody wants to kill each other, nobody wants to sell each other, and it's a perfect story. And on and on and on. And of course, that wouldn't be the Bible, and that wouldn't be religion. Somehow we have to exist with the difficulties of this, which is why I want to say that the end of this Parsha, the end of this book, as exultant as I want to make it feel, I cannot read it on this go-round without reading the Golden Calf episode and without reading it with the notion that there was a real spasm of violence and there are real echoes of this. When did this happen? This is the first month of the second year. The Golden Calf happened in the month of Tammuz, and it's month of 9-10. So they are a few months removed from it. The trauma of that episode is still there. The memory is still there, certainly among the people who are, who had loved ones killed in this spasm. And they have to move past it. And the way to move past it is to have God as a forgiving presence in the people. And I think that that's the role of the tabernacle. The tabernacle is going to function not only as a place where Israel meets God and God meets Israel, but it functions then as a corrective for the sin of the golden calf and the possibility of atonement. And you're always living with the possibility of atonement and forgiveness. And I think that that is the message of Bechol Masehem, the last two words. You're always on your journey and you're always venturing towards some kind of state of atonement and forgiveness. And we accomplish that through the structures that we have, through Torah, through Shabbat. That is the way we always achieve it. And I think that's really the message here. That's what's going on at the end as the book of Exodus comes to its close. Let me open it up. Spoken too long for questions. Go ahead, Ilana.
First of all, I want to say that it was a great idea to do it in the month of Sukkot,
Yes,
where the
for
holiday of
Solomon.
Sukkot takes place, because Sukkah represents a house, a home. So that's a nice connection to do it on Sukkot. And then also grammatically, Anan. If you do the infinitive in Hitpael, whoever is familiar with this style of the language, lehit anien is to be interested.
Very nice.
So, and it goes back and forth. This binyan Hitpael is doing something and getting it back. So lehit anien is to take interested. God takes interested in us, and we should take interested in Hashem in a meaningful, very meaningful way. So it's lehit anien and le'anien, and that's the root of anan.
Very nice. Nice connection. To be interested, to be involved. Bob.
With regard to the broken tablets, I'm wondering, is that symbolic of remembering our brokenness going forward on the journey? And I wanted to say some more about that, if I might. When I was doing some Hasidic readings, there was some comment that the different parts of the Mishkan also represented the 613 parts of the body. And there are also aspects of the cosmos that are represented. And with regard to creation, some of the materials are inanimate, some are from animal, some are from plant, and that this bringing together at the micro and the macro level was part of dealing with this brokenness going forward. So I'm just wondering about the power and memory of brokenness.
So all of that has deep significance within the mystical tradition, and as you know, Jews read this through many different lenses, one of which is also the mystical tradition. And that theme of brokenness and wholeness, of course, carries through in the mystical tradition. It has its source, I think, in the idea, and I have the text here, it is the idea that the ark contained both the broken and the whole tablets. And that was a common statement that the rabbis made. The rabbi said that here the text in the book of Kings says it was only the tablets. And the rabbis they take a little bit of a license and they say, well, it was the broken and the whole tablets. And what they mean there, at least in one instance, is it's such a moving idea. They're referring to an old sage, an old rabbi who has lost a little bit of his capabilities, his mental faculties. And they say, the ark contains the broken and the whole. And it refers to the brokenness of a human being, certainly after a whole life, and also in the state of cognitive decline, which this particular sage experienced. And so that was the symbol of the ark containing the broken and the whole. But for the rest of us, the idea that the ark contains the broken and the whole means that we're constantly walking around as human beings and in this story with the memory of failure. And, you should not have only the aspiration of your tremendous, achievement. Part of what it means to be a human being is to be reminded of where you've not been successful. I quote an author, David Bashevkin, from time to time. He has a lovely book. We did it in my Tuesday class. It's called Synagogue, SIN-A-Gogue. And he playfully says, we all put out on our resumes all of our achievements. And he says, I like to write a resume with all the things that I failed at, right? I didn't get this award. I didn't get this thing. I applied for this scholarship. I didn't get it. I didn't get this fellowship. And he says that tells us more. And I think there's a little bit, it's tongue in cheek, but it's also very wise. If you went through your life, if the eulogy I give is only your achievements, everyone goes, wow, that's amazing. I don't know who you were talking about, but if somehow, and of course you don't want to do this in that kind of presentation, but if somehow you make it out that a person is a person, and what makes a person, truly accomplished is that they live with all of their flaws and their missed achievements, their regrets, take Notre, regrets, I've had a few, and that made him an extraordinary character, and sometimes we have to see the person in their wholeness. And I think where I'm going with this is that the Mishkan is a representation not of perfection. It's at least a manifestation. It's a reflection that you are always in the state of becoming, and that's where I would go with what you said, Bob. You have brokenness and wholeness.
One last comment with the cloud.
Yeah.
With the cloud, is there any resonance with Genesis with the rainbow and the cloud coming together?
I thought about that. I didn't want to go there because I couldn't make the exact connection, but I'll have to have a good glass of wine and think about that one. Go ahead, Marlene.
I may be an apikoros, but when you talk about the cloud was there, the people were all experiencing this cloud filling everything. The priests couldn't even go in because the cloud was taking up all the space. The cloud is now not with us, but we are left with the original sin.
Yes, we are. And good that we are. Okay.
Good that we are. What happened to the optimistic? We have to walk around all day beating our chest.
No, we don't.
In our day, we can't achieve anything unless we live the way.
That's not what I meant. What I meant is human beings have a tendency to think that they can be perfect. And we have to remind ourselves that while we are tremendous and we can achieve immense things, we are also capable of tremendous cruelty and tremendous evil, and we are capable of doing bad things. We can't go around all the time with just a sense of our perfection. We have to be reminded that we are all in a state of constant becoming. The religious sensibility, it's interesting, what's the prayer? None of us is so pure that we can't say that we've said aval anachnu chata'anu, right? We can't. It's almost the same thing. I have the God in front of us. Kulanu nechoni, kulanu chachamim, kulanu kenim, kulanu nevonim, kulanu Yodim Torah, and even then, we have to say, do the Yetziat Mitzrayim. It's a pair of Yetziat Mitzrayim, right? It's in the Avadim Ayinu, and we just studied it last week, right? Afilu kulanu chachamim, kulanu nevonim, kulanu zkenim, kulanu yodim Torah, mitzvah aleinu saper b'Yetziat Mitzrayim. Even if we're smart, intelligent, we can be perfect. We have the obligation to tell the story. In other words, if you think you're perfect, you're not. In the Hasidic or in the spirit, the world of religious, piety, the more pious you are, the more sinful you think you are. That's just an amazing thought. The more you have to do the sense of tachana. So yeah, we carry it around. It's not apicorsis at all. This is a function of how we shape the way we see our world now. And I think, I maintain the Jewish people in this century is a traumatized people. And it's very difficult for us to ponder deeply these concepts because we have a lot of things in the way to that before we get to that. It takes a lot to wrap your minds around all of the ideas that I'm talking about here in light of a different kind of reality of Jewish experience. And I think that this is a particularly interesting modality in the non-Orthodox world. We can talk about this at length another time, but part of what I think the conservative movement, the Reform and non-Orthodox movements have suffered from is because we have not placed God at the center of our religious understandings, we've placed peoplehood at the center of religious understanding. We have lost the sense of obligation and lost the sense of awe, and the sense of forgiveness and atonement, the need of that. And I think, but that came about because of long historical trends. To be continued. All right, we're ready. Marilyn, question? Or
just wanted to say, getting back to the whole resume thing,
yes.
We on a personal level connecting, we learn more from our mistakes, I would say, than from the successes that some of those come pretty easily, or we work hard to get them. I think it's those failures that in life that we really learn from. That's
the point. That's what makes it interesting. Well, thank you very much. Okay, Alana, go ahead, Leslie.
So a cloud is I'm afraid to say, is a symbol. A cloud is a symbol of God.
Yeah.
And why? Okay, then why a cloud then?
Why not?
Because you can see it. It vanishes. That's another glass of wine. It's God's presence. God's presence, the cloud. It gives you a sense of something's there, but it's also invisible. It vanishes. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you all soon enough. Have a lovely week.